We'll start at 12:05. Give them a minute to join.
Sure.
Thank you. Well, we have 14 participants now. I think there'll be people joining in. So I'll just start with the intro and then we can take it forward.
Sure.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to welcome Ms. Swetha H Chakravarthy. She's a seasoned tech leader with over 24 years of experience across AI, cloud edge, innovation, and also inclusive leadership. So, as a former senior director at Intel and also a proud member of the BAGGGEL Foundation, she led big breakthrough initiatives like Intel's first software PAS and worked with industry leaders like Apple and Microsoft. So please join me in welcoming Ms. Shweta. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Rishi. Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. Thanks to KDEM, thanks to BAGGGEL for this opportunity. Um, typically I'm somebody who, when in school, would go into my dreamland if my teachers were not engaging. So I'm going to try my best to keep this interesting. We'll keep it going like a story session. As and when you're thinking, not just question and answers, but as and when you think of thoughts and you have something to share, please go ahead and put it in the Q&A. So, we all can kind of look at it and talk about it a little. And I also, would like to go through this without boring numbers and statistics, because frankly, with Google, we already had a lot of stats. Now with all the AI, tools at our fingertips, everybody has all the stats you need. So I don't think anyone needs numbers. If you need numbers, you can always, go find them. But it kind of got me thinking, right? This topic that we're going to talk about today, it was very, very thought provoking for me, because the world is going through so much of disruption, right, with AI. And it kind of made me think that I could always go, and put statistics and numbers about diversity, about women in tech, and what impact they could bring, and how tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities have to be included, and why. But then I felt like a lot of this can be told to you by AI today. You could go to ChatGPT and ask this question, and it'll give you all the related data around it. So it actually also made me think that, what can I bring to all of you that can be of value, because you've decided to spend time with me this hour, and I wanted to make it worthwhile, right? So I kind of thought through it and I said, okay, how about I bring in an authentic way of thinking, how I think through this problem, how am I approaching this in my mind as a tech leader? And then, if I'm able to provoke thought in a certain direction and instigate actions through it, I think that would be a great success, right? So that is how I've approached this. And we'll get started and we'll go through it, and you will see I will touch upon diversity, I will touch upon inclusion of places and cities, but you'll also see a larger concept going on here. And why is that? Because as all of you know, you must be watching the news, every week, we hear news about layoffs, right? TCS announced layoffs, Intel's announced layoffs, Amazon has laid off people. Every company is going through a major overall. And there is a lot of buzz that is AI causing this? Is this going to be, something that will disrupt? And what would the disruption look like? So this topic as well is going to be touched by AI, right? There is no way we can have a discussion about world-class technology without talking about AI today. But how do we talk about it less from a technical monster perspective, but more from an enabler for all of us, right? So that's going to be the intent. And so when I looked at that and I thought, okay, people are losing jobs, it's not fun. The outsourcing skills that India has been, so famous for, and we pride ourselves in for the quality and the kind of work that we can deliver at great speed, that might get largely disrupted because, AI agents can do that like in minutes, right? In hours. And so what used to take months of time with many people could start taking lesser and lesser time. So all of these can sound pretty scary. And that IT dream that we all built for India, it starts shaking a little bit. So then what do we do? How do we approach all of this, right? And what part can all of us play? So while all of these fears are setting in, there are a few positive aspects that I would like all of us to think of when we think of AI. First and foremost, of course, is speed, right? Whatever used to take a very long time can take much lesser time if we use AI. And every few weeks, we get new tools and new ways to work with AI, which is awesome. But there are a couple of other things to think about. AI can open up opportunities like never before. And why do I say that? I was talking to my sister in law who had taken a break from her career for childcare reasons, which is very, very normal for a lot of women, right? And now she's gotten back. And, after a long 10-year break, she's getting back into working. And it was a bit daunting for her. And as we were having the conversation, I said, you know what? The best thing about AI is you and I are in the same place right now. We have a level field. Because yes, I've spent a long time in the industry, but it's new to me, it's new to you, it's new to everybody. So this is the perfect time for people who have had to take breaks for various reasons to step back in, because the playing field is now level. A lot of your ex-colleagues, or if you've never worked in a working environment, the people who've been working, they all are now going through this point of evolve or perish, right? So everybody's having to learn. So now is the perfect time for you to get into this whole situation, because it doesn't feel like everyone's gone far off and now you have to catch up. You're there. You're there along with everybody. Yes, there might be some experience, but that's the network that we will build to share and bring each other along, right? So AI brings that kind of a level field, and it acts as a leveler for us. And what's also amazing is, as we are going through this whole shift, the huge large corporations and that kind of work that we used to do, it's going to start changing, right? At least this is my vision, that I can envision that over time we will see different working models, which means that huge, large tech offices in Outer Ring Road, large traffic jams, everybody trying to get into those spaces and working, and then going in, 10 to 5 or 9 to 5 or 8 to 9, whatever the weird hours we work, that is going to start changing. There is going to be a lot of disruption. Why is this going to happen? Because people are going to need a lot of innovation and a lot of movement. And the structures that we've traditionally built have been built for scale, but have also been built around a certain discipline. And this discipline actually was formed at the time of Industrial Revolution, right? Everybody goes to a factory, everybody goes to a manufacturing plant. There is a siren that starts the day, there is a siren that ends the day, and that's the day they work in. And that kind of a model has been adopted over time and adapted, to IT industry as well. But now that's going to change, because that's not the kind of work that will keep you going at a pace that is required. You need a faster pace. You need to move faster. You need to fail faster, and you need to keep innovating. You need to bring in skills that make sense in a very dynamic fashion, which means instead of looking at structured, buildings that you see, you should now start seeing it like swarms, right? Like swarms of bees that come together, and or shoals of fish that come together, which is a part of nature, right? As I'm talking about bees or fish, as nature intended, we all know how to come together for a cause and then disperse and then come together for another cause. And that kind of behavior, I believe, is going to evolve over the next decade. So we're going to see a very different world. We'll talk about it deeper into this presentation as we go through. But like I said, I'm going to keep this very story-like and talk about my experience. As and when you agree or disagree, or you have thoughts or questions, please feel free to go ahead and put that in the Q&A. Okay, I don't believe it works with the chat. You'll have to put it in the Q&A. So what I did when I got this topic was, I said, okay, this whole disruption is happening and all of these things are changing. And how do I start thinking about it? And I'm a huge fan of first principles. It really helps me work backwards and see where my biases are. And biases can be in various ways, right? And because we've grown up a certain way, we tend to assume a few things without even being aware of it. And that's a bias. So I love to kind of sit down and work through a topic or a problem through first principles. And I'm hoping that through this session, you'll see how we do it. We'll do it together. And at the end of it, I believe all of us can do this with any problem that we would like to solve, because by solving a problem by its first principles, one is you actually fix the root of the problem. You also tend to understand what exactly you're trying to address, which opens up multiple options of how you could solve it, right? So that's what we're going to see. So when I said, okay, let's use first principles, what I thought was, let me take this phrase, building a world-class tech team beyond Bengaluru, and let's break this down, right? Like, what does this really mean for all of us? And then I started looking at the meaning, literally, the dictionary meaning, to see, okay, what could it look like? Of course, there are various versions of dictionary meanings available. I picked one, but you get the drift of how I went about it. So I said, okay, if I go through each of this and I look at its definition, and then I put it in context with my current ecosystem and how things are changing, what would that look like? Right? So then we started off with a very simple thing, right? Building. What is building? Building is a process of constructing something, which means that there's something that you'd like to construct, and it also needs some binding thing, something to bind all the material. And in this case, when we say, okay, that material, what would it be? That would be a world-class tech team, right? You want to build a world-class tech team. A world-class tech team would have, talent across various areas that you would want to bind together. And then you want to do it beyond Bengaluru, right? Which means that somewhere Bengaluru, or maybe Outer Ring Road, has given us enough fear that we're thinking, can I do this elsewhere? Right? Can we make this a little more scalable than kind of trying to fit so many human bodies into that strip of road and get so much done? So this kind of thinking, so basically this is what I started off with, to say, okay, let's look at each of them, right? So then let's look at, what does beyond Bengaluru mean? So I thought, okay, does that mean Hubli? Does that mean Tumkur? Does that mean Tirupati? What does beyond Bengaluru mean? So then I thought, okay, what does beyond mean? Beyond means it's a place or a concept that we want to crossover, right? Physically or conceptually, we want to get out of the limits. And what are the limits that we're trying to get out of here? We're trying to get out of a physical location limit, right? Now, that kind of made me think, what if this beyond is everything, right? If it can include a village, it can include a city, it can include any place around the earth, and even maybe some data from the satellites. But how can we make this beyond big? And if we can make this beyond big enough, can we bring all the Indians together in this beyond where we can connect the dreamers and the doers, which can really create the kind of talent team that we're looking for, right? So that is the first bias that I wanted for us to be aware of, is when we say beyond Bengaluru, let's not take little steps to say Hosur, Tumkur, Tirupati or Nagarkoil. Let's break that totally and then say, let it be anywhere. I don't want to be limited. If there's an Indian even in space who just now went up there and came back, we should be able to connect. How can I connect all the dreamers and doers for my country, right? And this very concept, by the way, can extend even for the world, right? It doesn't have to be limited to India, but today as a patriot, we would want to talk about that situation. And then going forward, we want to build a world-class tech team. Now, what does a tech team do? These are professionals who can envision something awesome, who can develop it, who can maintain it, who can manage it. But what does that mean? It means we need skills for people to be able to manage operations at great scale. It means people who have business skills. It means people who have a huge vision, right? It means people who can map that huge vision into technology. It means, how do we take all of this and coordinate it real time and make it actually happen and bring it together, right? And in all of this, there is this, again, the AI aspect, right? We need diverse talent, which means we need the pace and the speed of the cities. We need the grit and the determination from our villages. And we also need the technology and the power of artificial intelligence. So when we are talking about talent, we're talking about men, we're talking about women, we're talking about city dwellers, we're talking about villagers. We are also talking about bots, AI agents who can be a part of this team. And we need talent that can also bring all of this together, right? So right now it becomes extremely critical for us to step back a little, and we have to reskill. Reskill is very, very, very important. So about 6 months back, I quit Intel as a senior director, and I came out largely to work on my own entity. And as I'm working through it, one of the problems I've realized is there is a huge dearth of good AI talent across the globe, and even more so in India. Sometimes it's even hard to find really good coders in PyTorch, right? That minimal is the skill that's available, and there, whoever is fairly even good at it, and even with the slightest prospect, are absorbed by the Googles and the Nvidias and the Metas. So now what we need is to be able to build a world-class team, and an amazing dream for us as Indians. First, we need to stop executing only to somebody else's vision. We need to start envisioning something for ourselves. Second is we need to be able to skill ourselves for talent that makes sense going forward, right? Whatever we did in the past and the bug fixing and all of that we used to do, it's important work, and I'm never going to trivialize that because it brought us to where we are today. But now we need to stand on that and reach higher, right? So now it's important for all of us, working, non-working, students, everybody, to go and see what kind of AI skills can I go skill myself in, because that's how you're going to help paint this picture. This beautiful picture of having a world-class tech team beyond Bengaluru can happen only if talent across various skill set and across various parts of India can come together easily, right? For that, we'll have to go reskill ourselves, which means we'll have to start following news. We'll have to start looking at what is happening and what kind of skills are required. And in those list of skills, where am I drawn to? Where is my skill? Where is my talent? And then go find that and build expertise. This next decade is of the people who have vision and who have expertise. Without vision, without expertise, if you just want to execute, there's going to be very little chance for us, right? So it's very important to reskill. I'm doing that myself. I'm learning, I'm reskilling, and it's important for everybody to do that, right? And moving forward, now, when we talked about building, right, we looked at a high level definition, but we said, hey, if I have a world class team and if I have the talent, I need to be able to bring them together. Now, what does bringing them together really mean? I really thought of a lot of ideas, but then, every time I think about distance, traffic, obviously, we all have been really scarred by it. I kind of was wondering what can I think of that is not going to be constantly bound into this location specificity, right? How can my building that binding material be such that location doesn't matter? And I know we all worked from home during COVID, but a lot of us found it very difficult to interact, which is one of the reasons a lot of companies are asking people to come back to work on premises because it's very hard to track people. Are they getting done? Are they doing things the right way? They don't get time to interact. So something didn't really work very well at that time, right? So what works really well is when I see my, nephews and nieces and my daughter playing video games. They're playing with each other across the globe. Somebody is sitting in the US, somebody is sitting here in Bangalore, the other kid is sitting, in the street away from our street, and they're all playing Nintendo, they're playing it together. And then I thought, if these kids are able to game online, like they're actually sitting with each other and playing, they're spending time with each other, they're actually building bonds virtually, instead of like every parent, I get annoyed if kids are on gaming all the time. But for a change, I tried to keep that bias aside and I said, why can't we bring that experience more and more into our work areas, right? And that's when I realized, and you can go ahead and search for tools like these, and there are available quite a few which have started. Of course, they will evolve and get better, but there are new age platforms that bring a gaming like experience into office teams, where there can be a real time engagement. There is a borderless collaboration model. So everybody logs in and you get into a virtual space and you have a spatial video chat with persistent rooms. So you are actually sitting in a room with everyone. And you can virtually walk up to somebody and then, get into a different space to have a different conversation and come back. You can use visual collaboration tools like whiteboards, documents, screen shares. You can do peer reviews, code reviews. Of course, we all know about, GitHub and all of that. And, you can also work with code together. Imagine what this would do if we are able to build it in a way that people from Hubli, from Bangalore, from someone in say Texas and another person in Melbourne can actually get into that room and work together, right? Let's say they're building an application on agriculture, and then they find somebody from, Bellada Bagewadi village and bring them into that call to talk about what does agriculture really mean and what are the problems they're facing. You get your industry expert as a part of your dynamic team. And imagine the number of teams that can dynamically be based out of interest for what needs to be done, and then you disperse and you join another space. So imagine, while we have all worked in a old fashion of, yes, our fathers worked 35 years in the same company, we probably have worked in 5 6. and the next generation do 5, 6 companies in probably 2, 3 years or even less. This would be a very quick project based, come swarm in, sign in, work on it, and then move to another swarm. So we keep swarming into various spaces to get work done in a very dynamic environment, like I how initially mentioned, that big offices and one physical location where people get in might actually slow us down over time, because this is going to be the future, right? And as people work like this, they're going to be able to build something a lot more exciting, a lot more engaging, rather than having to do that, just using your Skype or your Teams or your Slack, right? They're all good, but you need more. You need your virtual experience to be built to work together, right? So that is the kind of building we're looking at. That kind of binding material is what is required, right? Now, obviously, there's a lot to go from here, because if we look at all what we've discussed, you can paraphrase building a world-class tech team beyond Bengaluru to something like this, right? We would like to create new age platforms that bring diverse human talent across the globe together with the AI tools in a real time, high engagement, spatial collaborative environment to build highest quality technology for the world. That's what it translated to me eventually, which means all of this is what we need to achieve, right? And if you look at what we need to do now that we have actually taken a certain perspective and translated it further deep to get to basics of what this could look like, each of us need to think, what can I do about this? And what do we need? What are we lacking? For instance, we need a lot of good, high quality compute. So if, the government can run initiatives, I'm sure a lot of us would be very interested to be a part of such a transformation where we can create public environments of cloud where people can come and build such environments, right? We build such ecosystems for projects to get built. It would be great if we are able to also have portals where such talent can go sign up for projects, right? Like if there's a place where we can see all these projects, where these environments are, go sign up for it. You're automatically part of that project. You get paid according to that project's, designation, whatever that is. And then you get all the access and entry into that, right? Into that virtual world for that project. And you meet everyone you need to, you get started from where you are. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in Harvard or you're sitting somewhere, near the beach, as long as you're able to get in. And if you're able to make this come true, think about the kind of talent and the kind of knowledge that we can get from, women who are having to take care of their homes, men who are having to support their families, farmers who would love to stay with their crop and to love to take care of their heritage in terms of continuing with agriculture. All of this can happen simultaneously. Somebody very, very intelligent and very smart that I look up to once said that all of us have enough time to do two jobs really, really well, right? Like you can be a great coder and you can be a very good mom. You can be a great agriculturist and you can be a great project manager. There can be two different things, but you can do two different things really, really well if you're really motivated and you want to do that in life, right? But what really stops us is you can't do them because of the location barrier. So in many ways, I'm extremely thankful that I was given this topic, because now whenever I'm thinking of solutions, even for, the startup that I'm planning to build, I'm trying to think about how can I make it location no barrier? How can we make it in a way that it is still very effective? People work with a lot of energy, a lot of passion, a lot of excitement, but it does not force a physical, being all the time, right? And this, when you do it, I believe it will automatically bring such talented people And it'll make it such an inclusive environment, so diverse and so strong, that highest quality has to happen. And it will be something that would be amazing. And what is best is this is not really readily available anywhere in the earth today, right? It's not there for anyone. Everyone is trying to build bits and pieces of it. So as we are going forward, India has a real chance for us to be able to build something like this, come together and make a huge difference, because the kind of talent that we have hidden in various pockets is, amazing. It's something that we are aware of, but we don't know how to tap. Now we would be actually doing something great by tapping this knowledge, tapping this talent, by building an environment like this. So with that, I'm going to pause and profusely thank all of you and see if we have any questions. Give me a minute. Let me just stop sharing. There. Any questions?
Any questions, please drop it in the Q&A box, please.
I hope I didn't put you guys to sleep. Any suggestions, any thoughts?
There's one question from Soumya.
I'm reading that. So you're saying, how do you see hybrid working as a reality in Karnataka? Are you talking to government of Karnataka? I have not had a chance to talk to government of Karnataka. I would love to. But Soumya, I very strongly believe that hybrid working is going to be true. I know there are a lot of people who are asking people to come back to work. I know there have been discussions of people saying we need 70-hour work weeks, we need, Saturdays to be working days. But I don't believe that 70 hours, Saturdays, Monday, Sunday are going to be questions for us to worry about. I think what is stopping all of that is forcing a physical location. So I believe that having that removed as a necessity for a good amount of time, and maybe, meeting once a quarter or so physically, but then the rest of the time just being able to give people space too that they can easily access, would actually improve productivity. Of course, keeping it as persistent rooms would make it better, because I do understand sometimes that people say they're working and they're not. They're probably having coffee outside, or they're, watching a movie, which is the reason why we need persistent rooms where virtually we see each other and we're working with each other, and we actually step out if we have to. But it also would help that mom who is in, a small town somewhere, who can go in Tiptur, open the door for her kid and give a glass of milk and some snacks, and come back and get back into the virtual room along with everybody to work. It'll help her be a mom, and it'll help her work as well. Similarly, like I said, that farmer who would like to share his or her knowledge about agriculture, or to be able to, envision a great product about agriculture, will be able to join such rooms where there are virtual places for them to discuss all of this, but at the same time stay where they do their work best, which is in the villages, in the fields, right? So I do believe that that kind of a working model is very, very important. Yep, I'm just reading Soumya's comment here. Bangalore infrastructure has been the talk of global forums, from coffee shops to boardrooms. But then, yes, that is a very that is a very old concept, right? That's an industrial revolution. That's a factory concept. It will change. Trust me, it will change. And with the younger crowd, I am so sure, especially, I have a 12-year-old daughter. She challenges my thinking every single day. I'm sure the younger crowd is not going to accept a solution of this form, right? Because they know that a lot more is possible. They don't have the biases we have. A lot of us grew up, in the 80s or 70s, where we saw a lot of initial work being a lot like factory like. So it's going to change. I'm pretty positive about that. Great question, Soumya. I think there's another question from Lavanya. Um, So I think your question is that wouldn't people feel like virtual rooms make them feel monitored constantly, and how would it be if you're Lavanya, think about it this way, right? We are going to create the virtual rooms. We can create it the way we want, right? Virtual rooms doesn't mean we all are on video, right? I can be available where a sensor senses me, but what it shows you is my avatar, not my face, especially if I'm in my PJs, right? I'm relaxing, I'm in my PJs, but I'm super working right now. I'm enjoying this whole session, but I right now in the morning I'm all set up. I want to be, I want to show my face. I tell the app, you can show my face. You don't have to show my avatar. But the days, I mean, I do take so I work across the globe, so there are times I take calls at 5 a.m. in the morning. I am actually in my PJs. I have my hair pulled up, and I'm sitting with a cup of tea in my hand, with my leg pulled up, and then I'm sitting and working through. I can't feel comfortable getting onto a video. So most of the time in those cases, I just either put up my avatar or I don't go on video. But that is the kind of thought process we need to have, because see, not just about showing myself. If I'm getting into projects and getting out of projects, there might be choices I make to reveal my face or not, right? I may not want to do it, and that's perfectly okay. So I think we should start kind of questioning these things, right? To say, if I don't want to be monitored constantly, but I want a virtual room to work in, how do I make both happen? Right? And that's how we're going to come up with answers. Because you don't have to be seen all the time to be present all the time, right? Presence can happen in various ways. So we need to kind of go back again. Every time we feel we hit a wall, we need to question, is that really necessary? Can I have this without this problem? Right? And that's how the first principle thinking really helps us move ahead. But that's a great question, Lavanya. It's a very pertinent one. I think a lot of us face that issue. Any other questions? Anything that you guys liked or didn't like? Something you felt like, yeah, you're saying all of this, but it's not going to happen, or, I really like that idea. Because I think, when we bring these questions up, sometimes it's interesting how our children challenge us, right? So this time, I was also so impressed with how, the great Ratan Tata was keeping touch with the younger generation constantly, also because he said that I come from a very different generation, and if I have to serve the world today, I need to know what the youth of today is thinking. I think for us, for a lot of us, what we need to do is we need to engage with younger crowd a lot more and talk to them and ask them about their experiences, what they're doing, value their input, value their fights, value their questioning, because from that we will be able to break a lot of our biases, which we don't even realize we hold, right? So at least for me, that's been a great way to break my biases, is just talking to children. Any other questions, thoughts? Did you find this useful? Did you think it was interesting? Yes, Lavanya, I think, you mentioned that it's great to onboard a farmer while working on agricultural related products. I think this is very, very important. And this is where world has to go in the future. I mean, think about it. I was just joking with my mother-in-law the other day that the guy who built my stove would have never cooked in his life, right? And I'm sorry, I am being a little gender biased here because most of the time, a lot of these manufacturing things have very few women in those roles. Gender bias also states that a lot of cooking is done by women. And so when they design a stove, if you don't bring somebody who constantly is cooking day in and day out, you're not going to get the best of designs, right? So similarly, you're building a product for agriculture. You've got to bring the farmer in. They're going to break your heart when they tell you how a lot of things that you think are super fancy and useful are just not used, right? So it's very, very important to bring that angle in, right? When we're bringing them in. I mean, think about it. We create products for child adoption. How many times do we include children into that? We don't, right? So it's a lot of things that will suddenly open up, right? Where you can even call in parents who are hoping to adopt to join in, to share some of the problems they're facing in this whole process. I mean, it opens up such kind of avenues that we've never thought before. If we just remove that location as one problem and only one job at a time as another problem, right? If we can remove those two constraints, that in itself will open up a lot for us.
But Swetha, in the interest of time, I'll give the concluding note. Um, Thank you once again for a powerful and inspiring session. On behalf of KDEM and BAGGGEL Foundation, we truly appreciate your time, insights, and the energy you brought in today. So, and thank you to all our participants for being part of the Women at Work webinar. We
Thank
look
you
forward to
so
seeing
much.
you. Yeah, thank you
Thanks,
so much.
thanks, Rikshay. Thanks for making this happen, and thank you everybody for attending. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.